Teachers of Reddit, what was the most obvious teacher crush someone had on you? I had a student who had a rough life. Mom pretty much abandoned him, and grandma was raising him by pawning him off to family on the weekends. I knew he was going to have a rough life if someone didn't step in and let him know he mattered. He asked me one day how I would know if someone loved me. I jokingly replied that person would bring me coffee in the morning. A few days later he came into the gym with a huge smile and a cup of gas station coffee. He walked right up and handed it to me along with a bag of creamers and sugars. He said he didn't know how I liked my coffee, so he grabbed one of each. He saved his allowance and asked his grandma to leave for school early so he could stop by the gas station. The next year he brought me a coffee mug so I could remember him when I drank my morning coffee. That kid will always have my heart. When I was playing Hamlet in the school play and the girl playing Ophelia got stage fright at the last minute, so the drama teacher had to costume up and sub in for her, on her knees in a low-cut bodice, hanging onto my leg and screaming, "Oh, help him, you sweet heavens." I got a boner in front of 500 people. Not a teacher, but this one girl had such a blatantly huge crush on my film studies teacher when we were 15 over 16. She herself was mixed race and would ask the poor guy if he preferred white chocolate, dark chocolate or caramel. Winky face. Safe to say that was awkward for everyone present in the room. I had a crush on my teacher in high school. After I graduated, I asked him out to lunch with my best friend and me. He agreed. We met up a few days later and he walked in with his husband. That was a rough day for me. In the days of MSN, I got a chat invite from someone who had the same last name as me. I assumed it was a relation, but they didn't say anything, and so I left for a bit to eat. I came back and saw a couple more people had been added to the chat and saw they'd been talking about me. I realized they were students because they referred to me as Miss. They were teasing one of the others for his crush on me, and he was defending my massive ass as hot. Working as a substitute teacher, I had a 6th grader hand in a poem that went, "Roses are red, violets are blue, I'm single, how about you?" She also worked her phone number into another poem she handed in. I taught pre-K, and one student always wanted to be around me and would pretend to slip up and call me mom. He saw my phone had a screensaver of me and my at the time boyfriend, and he got all mad and said I should break up with him. Lol. Kids are adorable. I doubt he'll remember me in a few years. I teach at a university and students ask me out. I had a student once ask me out in front of the class while I was teaching, but I think it was more a power move than anything else. Edit. Bonus story. I teach a sexuality class and a student brought up negging. I asked the class for a definition, and one dude goes, "You're pretty for a sociologist." The entire class was horrified that he had negged me. I teach at a local university, and I've had a few, including one who used to sketch me during class, one who tried to put his arm around me, etc. The most obvious and persistent was a student who used to follow me after class every day, show up at my office just to talk, and spent all of his time attempting to look down my shirt. He ended up dropping out of college halfway through the semester. My second year teaching, we had a brand new teaching assistant in the special needs class who was this very outgoing redhead who was very well endowed in the chest area. One student took an instant like to her and was constantly grabbing her boobs. She wore turtlenecks and sweaters most of the year and a lot of scarves. This kid was relentless. She didn't last the full year. I felt really bad for her. She transferred to the elementary school after spring break. I'm not a teacher, but I do have a story of when I was a HS student. It was my senior year, and I had a crush on this young history teacher. He would come on Model UN trips with us as a chaperone, so he knew who I was. It was my birthday, and he heard from a different teacher across the hall. He said happy birthday to me, and my response was thanks, I'm 18. I blurted it out very quickly, and realized literally the second it left my mouth how inappropriate it was. His response, "Well, you can vote now." I taught preschool and the owner's grandson would tell everyone we were going to get married once he was done with first grade. He even gave me mittens with hearts on them, because hearts are for love. He's in middle school now, and doesn't remember me. Bit of a different one this. Parents' evening. Single mum comes in to talk about her son. Her youngest daughter, probably about 4, runs in, jumps on my knee and exclaims, "My mummy says you're going to be our new daddy." Longest parents' evening of my life. My first year teaching high school. The A/V department made an end of the year tape for the students every year as a keepsake. That year they allowed a senior to profess her love to me on the tape. I didn't know she had done this, and they had allowed it, until it played over their A/V system to the whole school. Needless to say, I was pissed. But I couldn't make too much of a stink, because I didn't want a lot of attention drawn to it, and they weren't going to take it out. I had a student ask me if I was married. Yes. This was followed by, "But are you happily married?" I started teaching way too young. I once asked my really young college teacher if he was married when he told us to ask about him. I was genuinely curious and felt extremely embarrassed because I realized what people were thinking over the question. I still feel dumb about it. Not a teacher, but used to be a Cub Scout guide. One of our boys, Tenyo, had a crush on my adjutant, 16-year girl. He swore she will be his girlfriend one day and was strangely serious about it. We laughed it off and forgot about it. Years went by, the boy became a man, joined the army, came back, went to medical university, got buff and handsome, and reached out to his old crush on Facebook. They got married last May and have a baby girl. I taught grade 7 and one kid in particular took a liking to me. It wasn't a crush per se. It came across more as an elementary school fascination with the teacher. He would raise his hand constantly during class to answer questions, and when students were doing work he would raise his hand constantly to ask me random questions about my life. He had a few favorite questions like, "What song is stuck in your head right now?" or "What's your fiance's name?" One time he very excitedly told me he had seen me at Costco, and I hadn't been to Costco that week, so he clearly was seeing me in places I wasn't. A student who had a crush on me wrote a straightforward proposition and asked another teacher to deliver it to me. This teacher was a mentor of sorts to the student, so you'd think he'd do something wiser and more responsible than what he actually did, which was deliver the note and threaten me with some form of unspecified violence if I told anyone. So I informed the principal, and both the student and teacher were transferred to other schools. Starting teaching high school English at 21 in the early 90s. Very religious. Student wrote me an anonymous letter explaining that she believed that God had put her in my class because we were meant to be together. Figured it out by handwriting. Reported it. It was last days of the school year before she graduated, so I don't think I ever had to deal with her being in my class again because of finals or something. A little boy with Asperger's gave me a note with "You're gorgeous" written on it. He was 8 or 9. Asked me for a high five and then proceeded to grip my hand in his. Not a teacher, but I had a crush on a lunch lady while I was in the first grade, and I would always say, "Hey, good looking, what you got cooking?" She knew what was up. My older brother's friend proposed to our 60+ teacher every day. She always laughed about it. Cue the entire football team picking up on this and proposing to her before every game. For about 3 years. Not a teacher, a student. Back in middle school, 16 years ago, I had a crush on a teacher of mine, although I wasn't aware of the severity of it until it was too late. Around Halloween time we were supposed to write a poem about a teacher of ours. I, of course, procrastinated until the night before and then realized that I lost the sheet with the contents of what the poem is supposed to be. All I knew was that it had to be about a teacher. So I chose my crush unbeknownst to me. The next day I show up to class and try and turn in my paper. where I was informed by my teacher crush that we were going to be reading our poems in front of 2 classes, separated by a sliding wall half the time. As other students read these, I quickly realized these poems were supposed to be Halloween related. I panicked because mine didn't fit the criteria and had nothing to do with Halloween. It wasn't until I was reading mine aloud that I felt the sudden rushing aha moment of what I had just confessed to the entire 2 classes. Both teachers from either side of the wall and the entire student body watched in stupefied horror as I read it aloud, voice and hands shaking. Too late to turn back. It went like this to start. Mr. Hopper, I have a dog named Copper. Mr. Hopper, you make my eyes popper. I don't remember the rest. When I finally looked at Mr. Hopper, his entire face and neck was red with embarrassment. We never spoke of it ever, and I avoided him like the plague. I'm sure it was the same around.